One of my questions is about the relationship of this organizing to other types of organizing, and you're both touching on it, but I'd love to hear more. There are a lot of socialists involved in what's happening this March. There are also people involved in immigration rights movements, the sanctuary movement. How do these movements relate? And I guess a crystallizing question, given the history that we've lived with over the centuries as women, is this a coalition that can be split in the old ways?
One of the points of light after the election is that we have come to see how we need each other now more than ever.
You're confident about that?
You know, I am. I feel like there is a level of movement coordination that we are seeing now that we have not seen in a long time. And
describe it. So what does that look like to you? Or where do you see that?
So, you know, there's a table called the Resistance Table led by Demos Move On, the National Domestic Workers Alliance and Color of Change. And we come together in a war room that consists of, you know, close to 100 national organizations. And it's less about coordinating one campaign and more talking about our overall goals for the movement ecosystem and at which times our different bases, different issues need to be in the forefront so that we stay connected and how we can, in a deeper way, relate to each other's issues.
And socialism is coming back into this conversation. People are quoting the feminists of the early internationals, the socialist internationals, whether it's Clara Zetkin or Alexandra Kollontai, whomever. That language is coming back. Where do you see that in this whole development?
It became clear over the course of the last election that the main public figure who was standing in distinction to both the political establishment and sexist, misogynist, garbage candidates was Bernie Sanders, who identified as a socialist. Now, Bernie Sanders is not a perfect representation of the left in this country, but he brought a sort of representation of socialism to people that was really legible, that it's about redistribution, it's about control over your own life, and people thought, oh, well, socialism appears to be an alternative to this system that is working extremely badly for us.
So, vision moment. All of this sounds great, but it is also still true that amongst the demands of the action is full provisioning, which I read as kind of a reinforcement of the welfare net, of the social safety net. I vision a future, a feminist international global future that is post-capitalist and has an actual society, doesn't need a net for the people that fall through. What's your vision? If all this goes according to plan and your best case scenario, how will the history of this moment be written? Jodine.
I think one thing is that we move away from a place where people's economic anxiety is manipulated and turned into racialized anxiety. I think that's a lot of what we saw in this last election. People who had, lost their jobs, fear of what would happen in the economy. And it tells the story that if you drain the swimming pool of economic opportunity, instead of letting Black folks, Native folks, Muslims also swim, we actually will drain the pool for all of us. And so I think it's about getting away from this idea that only some of us in a world are able to succeed, instead of really deeply not just saying, but believing that until we're working for the well-being of all of us who do share this social space, as you said, that there's always going to be an ability to manipulate, to divide, so that one person has all the water, but really that just leaves all the water sipping out of the pool.
And do women feminists have a special, purchase on that argument, on that work?
Yes, actually. Because one of the ways that the state has declined to provide for people, and one of the ways that community has been degraded, is by saying, all of these things you have to do to take care of each other, that's not a social problem, that's your personal problem. You, in the household, which is usually a woman, you deal with that. You do the childcare, you do the cooking. You maintain everybody for the labor force, you work in the labor force. And among the things that would be involved in full social provisioning are, of course, universal childcare, universal, affordable, or free or public housing. All the things that we have privatized that are actually things that are common needs for every single person, many of them fit within the traditional domain of women, actually. And we're very well positioned to look at them and say, there's nothing natural about this. This doesn't feel good, And this is something that actually we can do together. and we're going to show you what those things are. And I think that this strike actually does that.